It's Saturday evening. It's time to talk about the very best comic books in the entire industry that you can get this week with my good friend Drew. Some people might know him as Dolan. It's something like that. You're a man of many names.
Yes, I am. Man of many names, man of many talents. But one thing I like to do across all those names is talk about great comics. So let's talk about these great comics this week.
It's been slim pickings, especially from Marvel and DC as of late. We haven't had a big week in a while. This is that big week, not because of Marvel, not because of DC, but actually because of indie comic books. They delivered 5 awesome comic books, and we do have a couple of Marvel books and one DC book to talk about as well. First up, TMNT, The Untold Destiny of the Foot Clan #1, IDW, Eric Burnham writing, Matteo Santaluco on art. Eric Burnham has mostly been doing the TMNT Saturday morning adventure stuff, so I appreciate he was able to do something that was a little bit darker in nature as far as this book. I had forgotten how awesome Matteo Santaluco is on art within TMNT comic books, and they're like the perfect marriage here. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. I'm not sure why the granddaughter of Shredder has Rocksteady, Bebop, and Casey Jones all on one team, but there are secrets of the Foot Clan, or maybe ninja secrets to discover. They decide it's their birthright. They go in, and we get a really cool siege of this building or whatever. It turns out other people are looking for these secrets, and there might be a beatdown of epic proportions on Shredder's granddaughter. Matteo Santaluco absolutely fucking owns this comic book. It looks amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to Eric Burnham, I see this as his pitch, more or less, to like try to get onto the next level TMNT, like to get to the adult readers of TMNT. He wants to get to that level, and he really shows that here in this issue. It is so fun, it's so action-packed, so kinetic. I love it, and the art is fantastic too. And I love the nice little twist at the end. I love how, hey, if you're using magic, there's gonna be a cost to that magic, and there's some really great stuff here. Eric Burnham and the artists here, they're terrific storytellers, and for the longest time, the mainstream TMNT books have not been that good. I mean, art has been good, but the stories have just been, okay, whatever. But this one, holy crap. I mean, if you have these two working on it, on the mainstream stuff, I'm there any day. Please do check this out, guys. TMNT, The Untold Destiny of the Foot Clan. Do check this out.
Absolutely. I would much prefer Eric Burnham and Matteo Santaluco on the next generation. Obviously, we know we are getting Jason, and we'll see what happens there. But this day was a breath of fresh air if you want to read, I guess, in continuity TMNT, which I haven't been able to do for a while. Next up, we have Dawnrunner #1 from Dark Horse, Ram B writing, Evan Cagle on art. I've been a little bit down on Ram B, especially his stuff at DC Comics and Marvel Comics. I don't think he's really much of a superhero guy. I don't think he gets into that stuff, but he does like high concept. Now, this is certainly borrowing, and I would say borrowing heavily from concepts in Pacific Rim, but I do think he executes it a little bit better, and it's a lot of fun. The art is really, really spectacular stuff, and I like what they're setting up here. Instead of kaiju, here you have Terex, and instead of Jaegers, you have Iron Kings and all that kind of stuff, but it's the same concept. But at the end, there's a big mammoth twist on there that really portends really cool stuff happening in the future. Was blown away by this one, and now I remember why I like Ram B so much in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I laughed a little bit because, there's a lot of elements taken from Pacific Rim. But like you said, I think he does it a lot better here. And one thing we haven't said, Evan Cagle's art in this, his art is terrific in this book. And I think this is probably the best illustrated Ram V comic I have ever seen. If it's not the best, it's definitely in the top 3. Because Mike Perkins did a great job with him with Swamp Thing, but this is right up there. Evan Cagle is a terrific artist. I'm not too familiar with this stuff, but after seeing this, holy crap, I want more of this guy. It is amazing. And yeah, the fights in this toward the end are terrific. The characters are great. It's stuff you're familiar with, so that's great. You have a great reference point to go off of, which is Pacific Rim for some of these characters and their motivations. It's great stuff. This is a lot of fun. This is a very fun issue. Do check out Dawnrunner, guys. You're going to be very surprised. Ram V can tell a fun story.
I can't believe you left out Sumit Kumar, who did these Savage Shores and then did the sequel, like A Brigand's Tale, with Ram V, but those are also very well illustrated. And there's a lot of art talent on this book as well. Next up, we do have the hottest franchise in all of comic books, the Energon universe, Cobra Commander #3, Image Comics, Josh Williamson writing, Andrea Milana on art. And this has a totally different flavor from Transformers and G.I. Joe. And it gets real dirty in this one because the Dreadnoks have Cobra Commander. And it turns out they want to extract some information. What does he know about the Energon that they discovered in the swamps? And they are willing to basically do anything to Cobra Commander to get it out of him. It turns out his face mask is impenetrable, but they do a lot of torturing. This is a pretty gritty, dirty comic book. It probably goes on a little bit too long in the torture aspects of it, but I really did like the way that they showed Cobra Commander, even under such dire straits, was able to outwit them and get them turning on each other, which I thought was a really good twist. And then we finally saw the emergence of a character that we hadn't seen, I think, since G.I. Joe the movie, that he was in disguise the whole time. And that kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah, this whole comic blew my mind. This whole series is blowing my mind. The whole Energon universe is blowing my mind. You know, I've often held the belief, I really believe, like, if you're going to have a comic book centered around a villain, you have to cut them up with villains who are just as vile, if not more vile, than that character. And this accomplishes what the Joker series by James Tynion failed to do. Whereas here you have your villain, who is the lead character, but here you have the villains who are much more villainous, much more evil and vile than that lead character. And it is terrific here. And what they do to Cobra Commander, like you said, the torture stuff, it's insane, it's intense. I didn't expect them to go that far in this book, but they do. It's great stuff. And you just really see that Cobra Commander, he will not bend, he will not shake, and he'll be messing with their heads. I love that stuff. And the art in this is terrific. It's amazing, Wes. We've seen what Josh Williamson can and can't do. He can tell stories so terrific here in the Energon universe, but you get him over in DC, it's like, who the hell is this guy? It is literally feel like there's two different Josh Williamsons in this universe right now, and I don't feel comfortable about that. This is the Josh Williamson I like. Energon universe, Josh Williamson. I want more of you, Josh. This is the guy I want. Do check this out, guys. Cobra Commander is a terrific read.
Yeah, really enjoyed that one if you want to see the darker side of the G.I. Joe universe. Now, another book that we have to talk about is an imprint at Dark Horse. If you find this, I'm Already Dead #2 from Matt Kent. It's his own personal imprint there. Obviously writing, Dan McDade on art. Now, the first issue was very, very hard-hitting, kind of setting the stakes up for all the things that are going on here. This one is more exploratory about what this world is, what's going on there, and the lead character is discovering there's this religious sect there. She's trying to communicate with them. She doesn't realize exactly what they have in store for her. She might be digested by a planet. Fortunately, she is like corn to this planet, and she just pops out the other side intact. And then she goes on like this weird guided tour of all the monuments and statues in crazy cities that have been built on top of other cities as we're learning the scope of what this planet is and starting to learn some of its secrets about its culture and stuff. And this is really where Matt Kent really starts to shine.
Yeah, Matt Kent is terrific in stories like this. The story like this, it has very much a Lovecraftian feel. And when I say Lovecraftian, it's that you have these alien beasts where you have our lead character trying to describe that character, and they're doing their best, but there's some aspects of it where it's like words can't begin to describe the color I saw, the color that's indescribable, that's never been seen before, sounds that I've never heard before. It's stuff like that, and I love that touch to stories like this. And yeah, in this issue, like you said, she's learning how the world works, the language, the monetary systems, how the people talk, who's friendly, who's not. And it really is a whole new universe. And Matt Kent is building a whole new universe and world here. And he's doing a terrific job with this. And I love it. This is horror sci-fi at its best. And this is what we need more of in that genre. And the end twist of this, it's got me coming back for issue 3. I want him to explain how this person is in charge of all of it. And do check this out. Matt Kent at his best right here. And if you find this, I'm Already Dead, it is a terrific sci-fi horror story.
Now, I do also want to point out that it is a $7 comic book, but it is in magazine size like prestige format. So it's a little bit more expensive, but it's part of this imprint. The last indie book that we have to talk about, You and I, #2, AWA Studios, J. Michael Straczynski, Mike Choi on art. This is part of the Revolution universe, whatever that thing that JMS created at AWA Studios. It does feel like Mike Choi is doing the heavy lifting as far as storytelling, because we have two characters that were both infected by this virus. Either you die or you come back with superpowers. The girl hasn't come back with superpowers. Or at least she doesn't think so yet. I imagine that's going to come out in time. But the dude had mental illness. He had this weird thing going on in his head where the world he would see was not the world that you and I saw. And now he's kind of impervious to bullets. He moves kind of like the Matrix. And I love the way that they differentiate the way the world really looks to the way that he's seeing the world. And he feels like there's a much bigger purpose for himself. His name is You, and now his cohort, Isabel, who he calls You and I. And it's really interesting stuff. I do think they probably need to speed things up just a little bit more as they flesh out their relationship and get a little action going on in here. But I'm still very, very interested in kudos to Mike Choi on an already great comic book art week. He stands up to everybody.
Oh yeah, and like you said, I really love the difference, like how he sees the world and how she sees the world. I love that aspect, how we see things differently, and it's great. And it's not just how we see things; it's how he's interpreting what someone's saying and what they're actually saying. I love that aspect because we see what she says. It's like, oh God, but when we see how he's interpreting it, what she's saying, it's like, oh, okay, I actually like this. I like how he's seeing it. Yeah, this makes much more sense. I can go along with this. And yeah, like the action scenes in this toward the end are a lot of fun at the end, and I really dig it. And the art in this, like I said, Mike Choi, holy crap! You want to taking it up to a next level here. It's amazing, and I really want more of this. Issue 1 I thought was good. Issue 2 was so much better than issue 1. I really dug this issue, and I really like these characters, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Yeah, do check this out, guys. You and I, number 2, Mike Choi, holy crap! Jim Michael Straczynski, he's doing a great job here.
Thank goodness for indie comic books because they brought the heat, and there's so much good art. We talk about Mateus Santaluca, we talk about Evan Cagle, we talk about Mike Choi, but the best illustrated comic book all week was actually from Marvel Comics, Star Wars Visions Takashi Okazaki #1, which I guess is some type of sequel to an animated short that was done on Disney Plus in the Star Wars Visions series. There are words in it, and there is a story being told, but you don't need to pay attention to any of that. You can just look at every page and marvel at the art and how cool it is. But it is about this Ronin Sith Slayer that's out there. He encounters this old Sith that he had like a relationship with a robot. He found him, he fixed him up, and they've basically grown old together. And it's time for them to have their final duel. Really cool stuff. He's got a weird mask on. He finally, before the Sith dies at the hands of the Ronin, shocker that the good guy wins in this one. When you finally see it, I believe it's actually a Zabrak, like the same type of alien that Darth Maul was, even though it appears that he might have had hair, which I thought was a little bit weird. But the breathtaking art in here and the choice of color, it's done like a manga. It's black and white with pencils on it. But the lightsabers, when they use them, they are the color of the lightsabers. In this case, they're both red. There are little bitty green and blue dials and stuff on the droids themselves that really pop out. And it's not the most complicated story in the world, but my goodness, with that art, it doesn't need to be.
No, and a lot of the best comic book stories don't need to be complicated, and it shouldn't really be that complicated. They should be ones for across the board everyone should be able to understand. You don't need Chris Claremont, James Tynion, Dinner with Andre levels of dialogue on every damn page. The point of a comic book, it's bipartisan. You're writing an art, but art should be doing a lot of most of the heavy lifting story-wise. And the art, when the art tells a story here, you don't need the dialogue. It's just going to ruin the art. There's no need to beat it down with the dialogue. And it's beautiful. All you got, like you said, just got to look at the pages. You're going to get what's going on. The dialogue is controlled. That's the way I say it. It is very much controlled. There's not an abundance of it. He's not going crazy with it. It's very much controlled because he's letting the art tell the story. And the story is beautiful. It's very immaculate. Takashi Okazaki, he is an amazing, amazing artist. I want to see more of this guy. I want to try to look this guy up, see what else I can find, because he did a Star Wars story a couple years ago that I thought was so flippin' beautiful. It's with Mace Windu and another Lord of the Sith. It is amazing. Yeah, Mace Windu, drawn by this guy. It is amazing. Check this out. It is terrific. You want to see Star Wars done right, it is right here, because almost everything else, practically everything else from Marvel Star Wars-wise, sucks. But this is the one standout. If you want to see Star Wars done right, it's right here.
Absolutely. That book is absolutely breathtaking when you see the art. I cannot sell it high enough. The other Marvel comic book that we will recommend, Wolverine Madripoor Nights #2, Chris Claremont writing, Edgar Salazar on art. You took some shots at Chris Claremont, but this is a lot of fun. I think this is probably the best miniseries or ongoing anything Chris Claremont's done at Marvel, maybe 15 years or something like that, because he's actually pushing the story forward at a pretty damn good clip. It turns out Captain America is in Madripoor for a reason. Wolverine has joined up. We've also got Black Widow, and they're fighting what they thought were robot ninjas. It turns out they're not robot ninjas. They were actually poisoned and under mind control, and they end up in the bowels of Madripoor, even below Lowtown and all that kind of stuff. And we get to see some older characters, and we get to see something be done to Wolverine and Captain America that almost feels unfathomable. When it happens, the Edgar Salazar art just sells it so well to where they've been depleted of so much like life force. it literally does look like they're about to die.
Yeah, it really does. And who pretty much they're left with it by the end of this issue to pretty much take physical charge. It's like, okay, I can go with this now. How they're going to have to take charge of that, how she's going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But yeah, it's shocking what happens to both of them. And back to Chris Claremont. Yeah, I was kind of referencing Chris Claremont back in the 80s. If you really look at his X-Men stuff in like the early 80s with JR, it really is very, very heavy on the dialogue. But here, it's very controlled, and it's a very fast-paced action story, and I really dig it. And the villain who does it to this, I don't know, can we say the villain's name? We don't want to spoil it?
Go for it.
Bloodscreen. Yeah, it's great. Great villain from Wolverine, from Larry Hama days. I love it. He's back, and yeah, how he takes him out, I dig it. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it, and it's got me coming back for the next issue. This is, I mean, it's amazing how much Marvel is just stinking up the place. And this is one of the few standouts where it's just like, guys, you can do it right. This is how you do it. Chris Claremont is showing you. It's not that hard. And yeah, if you want to see Wolverine, the Marvel superheroes done right, do check out Madripoor Nights, issue number 2. This is really a fun read.
Yeah, you definitely have to go outside the 616 these days to find the good stuff at Marvel, but we kind of talked about it on the live stream today. Unfortunately, we do have one book to recommend from DC Comics, probably a shocker to most people, Nightwing 112, Tom Taylor writing, Sammy Basri on art. Nightwing has been a slow burn. They're basically still in the first story arc because Heartless is still out there. And we get this story where we have Nightwing, a young boy has been kidnapped. He's a big fan of Nightwing. He's on his pencil case and all that stuff. And we get Nightwing and Batman together to run down this guy that is abusing this child. That turns out he probably murdered this kid's mom, maybe his dad, stuff like that, and taking him to Vietnam. It's hard to mess something like this up. It's Batman and Nightwing together doing the right thing. It does go a little bit over the top. Batman is slurping Nightwing a little bit too hard in this comic book for me. There are a couple of moments that I don't think really work because I don't think that's how Nightwing's costume works. But besides that, if you want a fun Nightwing book where he actually does something, this is it.
Look, Tom Taylor's really dropped the ball on the villains here as well as the story is just kind of like veering off the other courses where it's like, no, bring it back here. I want to know what's going to happen with Heartless, which you still haven't finished that story yet, and I want to see what happens with that. But yeah, this issue was mostly good. It was for the most part. And the only part really I didn't care personally was the stuff in the Batcave with young Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne Batman. I didn't like that dialogue in there because I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't really sound right. But after that, it gets better and the fight scenes are really good. And like you said, the stuff with the armor, it's like, that's a choice. But yeah, in a time when it's hard to find a good Nightwing story, this is one of the very rare standouts. Yeah, if you like Nightwing, do check this one out. You will be surprised.
I'm just as surprised as anybody else that I was recommending it. And I do want to say thank you very much to Drew for joining me to run down the very best comic books of the week. And there is some fantastic art out there this week. Speaking of fantastic art, you've been working a lot with Michaels lately, and you guys have a new project coming out on Kickstarter?
Yes, we do. Today, actually. It should be launching today. Pray for the Sinner, number 6. And it's the final chapter here. It's Sin versus Grax. Who's going to survive? You got to read to find out. Yeah, it's written by Murat Michaels and myself with art by Dietrich Smith. We got a lot of great covers, including the incredibly talented and beautiful Sora Sung. There may be some more stuff coming in the future with Sin, but I can't say yet. But yeah, do check this out. This is the final chapter. It's an action-packed thriller. You don't want to miss out. Murat Michaels here and I are we're telling a great story.
And if you're looking for more coverage of comic books, and maybe a little bit earlier in the week, we do have the Hot or Not podcast on Thinking Critical Patreon. There's a link in the video description where Jim from Weird Science and we go through everything from Marvel, DC, the good stuff, the bad stuff, all the stuff in between to help you find out the stuff you definitely want to go check out. Maybe the stuff that you want to avoid, and perhaps a comic book or two that Jim and I don't love, but might be right down your alley. Definitely check that one out. A lot of fun stuff going on in the Patreon.